how's it going? How's it going? Welcome aboard. It is I, TJ, Taurai Jack, and welcome to M5 Successful Friends, representing M5 Property Addicts, the business that I run, and M5 Property Varsity, the school where we teach other people to be successful, as we have been doing property here down in South Africa. It is a podcast that we run and we come out live to you. And within this podcast, I've got an amazing guy that I want to talk to you about. And before I jump into that, who is Taurai Jack? Taurai is an active property investor. So I do property investing all the time in the business, M5 Property Addicts. And if I'm not doing that, I write books. And my latest book that I've written here is called From Bad Debt to Property Mogul in 2 years. And you want to get that book. And if I'm not doing that, I'm just chilled out. I'm just chilled out, a normal guy. But I normally host on M5 Successful Friends, which is the podcast that we run. I normally host other individuals. And today, I've got a cool guy called Dawid. And I met out this guy here online. They've got an online school where they teach other people amazing things around their credit score, personal development around their financial, actually. And wow, the amount of information, how strong this guy is in terms of habits that he has created and things like that. He does property out in Cape Town, and he also runs his own business. And let me not steal away from him. And I think you're going to enjoy Dawid as much as I had enjoyed. I learned quite a little bit about him. Our lines are very parallel in terms of our thinking and things that we do and how we run businesses. So I'm excited. Hope you're going to enjoy it too. So let's jump into it. How's it going? How's it going? Welcome aboard. It is I, TJ, from M5 Property Addicts, representing M5 Property Varsity, and M5 Successful Friends. Well, it is another successful friend coming up today, and I've got none other than Dawid. And I've been not hanging out with him in person. I was checking out online, and I started seeing what he is doing, and I was like, this guy is interesting. Let's bring him onto the show and let's talk about what he does, why he does it, and everything else. And I get fascinated by people like him. So I just wanted to jump in and talk to Dawid. Is it Dawid or David?
Well, I'm an Afrikaans boy, eh? Like my business partner would say, a true double clutch.
Right.
So yes, it's Dawid, which is Afrikaans. But usually when I speak to English people, I just say David because it's a lot easier. Otherwise, you start getting the questions like, is it Dawid? Is it Dawid? So I actually decided to pass the family name onto this to my son, and he is now David with a V. So his life won't be that complicated.
All right, great stuff. Great having you around. Who is Dawid, and what is your story in real estate?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm from a small town called Worcester, actually.
Really?
It's about 100 kilometers from Cape Town. So I grew up there. I was born there and everything. Yeah. And then my journey with property, it probably came in high school. So my mother decided to buy the place next to us. And she made some renovations, and then she sold it again for a nice profit, and which is also now called, obviously called flipping. And that's why I started seeing like how the property game works and how you buy and how you renovate and then sell it at a profit. So I think that was my first experience with property and making money with property, is my mother doing it and having us involved. We actually painted the place out ourselves, and then got she paid us for the work. And then when I was about 26, I bought my first place, an apartment here in Century City. And about 2 years after that, I sold that place. It sold within 3 days. It was great. I thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. You just buy and then immediately you sell the place and then you can go on to the next place and bigger place.
Yeah.
And then so I bought again in Century City. And then since then, I've been involved in a few things. I've got a few rental properties. I'm invested in some projects, crowdfunding projects, which is real estate in the UK. I've been involved with some AirBnb stuff, which is all rent to rent.
Yeah.
So yes, that's my story, and here I am now.
Good. I want to go back to the point when you were staying in Worcester, and when you were there, you know, you speak the fact that your mom, she went on to buy this property, and she paid you. She was doing child labor at that time. But I almost want to speak to the point, David, of saying that what you were seeing there, and this flip was in Worcester, right? And how old were you at that time?
I was standard 9 at that time, so it's about 17 years old.
Right. And that got your awareness, you know, to know that, oh, you can actually do this. And I know that you're a family man, you've got kids of your own. And I think it many a times as parents, because I'm a parent as well, we don't expose our kids to these things very much early, and we actually don't know the impact that it can do. And hearing your story to say that that's where, for you, the light switched on. But I mean, from a 17-year-old up until when you were around about 26, that's a good 10 years until you started doing something on your own. And again, you hit a sheer luck, first time luck. You went into a good deal and you banked some money. And I just want to speak about that experience of you seeing your mother jumping into it yourself, and then this gap here of 10 years. What did you then do after your mom planted the seed? Because that's what I think it was. She planted the seed. It might have not been intentional to her, or it could have been, because mom are very sneaky, right? She could have planted the seed. What then happened within the 10 years for you to actually now start thinking, hey, I can actually do this for a living?
Yes, so obviously when I finished school, I went on to study. It was only a 2-year thing. I actually didn't end up doing what I actually studied, but yeah, I started going into business, and I've always had the curiosity around real estate, because it's just, I don't know, I think you know, every person is different. Every person likes something excites different people. Like real estate will excite me, but it won't excite someone else, you know. So I've always loved the subject, and when I saw the articles, I always read up on the articles. I've always looked. I don't know, just intentionally, I've just looked at properties around me, and wherever I go, it doesn't matter. My wife will also tell you, it doesn't matter which country we go to. I always look at the prices of real estate, because then I kind of know also what's going on in the industry, what's going on in the country, and so I've always really been doing it. So I think I kind of started educating myself without really knowing that I've been doing it. Obviously, because my mom was there as an example, you know. So I think my mom taught me a great deal of things when it comes to personal finance, which I'm very grateful for. But I think, like you said as well, it's the parents doesn't always realize it. And like I said earlier, just before this call, before we went live now, I think it's an topic that is very much lacking from our education system. You always get taught you need to buy a house and you need to own your own house, and that is property investing. But that couldn't be further from the truth, because most of the times in South Africa, at least, that could be the worst investment that you do, is buying your own primary residence. Because you can rather take the money, you can invest it in investment properties, rental properties, or student housing, whatever it might be, and you actually get a return. Whereas if you're buying residential, you're not always getting that return. And that was my first mistake, actually. I went, in my opinion, and bought residential, or primary residence, sorry. But I think I could have made a lot more money if I actually didn't go that route. If I went on a different route and started investing heavily and educating myself around that immediately. But that was probably the journey I had to take in order to get educated and to learn my lessons.
Right. I suppose we all have different school fees that we pay at different times, you know. I mean, I can speak of the same thing as well. When we started off, we were thinking that getting a farm. So when we were employed, so I had a very good job in a good bank, and uh, I really thought that one could make money from doing business. And for me, business was something that you have to be doing active. So we got some money, we put it in a farm, and we started doing chickens. And again, it was my worst ever investment because the chickens never came to roost. Diseases, managing people, and we almost lost everything. We almost went bankrupt. And that was my school fees at that time, until I actually realized that, oh, in real estate, you can actually buy properties and you can rent them out. And there I was, now I'm thinking about all the millions that I had spent in a farm that was not giving me anything. Had I plugged in the same amount of money into real estate that was cash flowing, I could have been in a different space. But the lesson that I got there, David, was that had I not gone through the experience and the pain of the farm, I would have never gone out to actually see what are the alternatives. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You know what? We actually did a webinar yesterday where we also discussed this. Is when you try and form new habits, the best thing to do is have pain to motivate you for that habit, or to make that change, or to make that habit change.
Right.
So a person, we gravitate towards pain more than we do towards pleasure now. So that's like you as well with your chicken farm. The lessons you learned, I bet you didn't make that mistake again.
I still love Nando's. I still love chickens, but I'm not going to raise them on my own. No.
No, exactly. Yeah. Only a fool bunches there twice.
Yeah. But now let's come back to your investment journey now, David, where now you are in a position, and you stay in Cape Town, and Sanctuary City. It's not a cheap area, and it's not for the middle class individual, someone who's got a middle class job, non-managerial, to just go and buy. But there you are at 26, you decide, no, let me go and do this. Did you go in intentionally knowing that you're going to buy this property and then you're going to sell it immediately? What was your thinking in buying that first property?
No, I think it's just all of us have always been ingrained. I mean, think about back to school, think about your parents, think about everyone else. They've always told you the same thing, is you need to own your property. You need to pay off the property and own the title deed of that property that you are staying in. And that's what I did. I listened to them. I went, I bought, it was actually my brothers and I that owned property. My mother started like investing little bits for us, getting a bond for us and just using the rent to pay off that property. So she actually started that once again. But then when I started making money in my business, I obviously had the capital to now go and buy my brother's house and to settle the bond. Right. And then so I did that, and then I bought this place again, which was again in Sanctuary City. And the funny thing is, a lot of people will tell you that you're so lucky or to have a place that is paid off. And now I'm sitting here today actually selling the place because I actually think that it was a big mistake.
Right. In some of in our conversation, the more we speak to each other, the more I'm realizing that I should have invited your mom, not you, to this podcast. Right? Yeah. But David, as you go along now, you are now doing this almost very intentional. You're doing property very intentional. We speak of the AirBnb that you do. We speak about the investments that you do offshore via crowdsourcing and things like that. And a lot of people would then start to think that you have extremely risky now. So you're doing Airbnb, you're doing flips, you're investing overseas. How do you know that this thing is real? And earlier on, you spoke about being educated, right? And I'm of the view that if you're educated enough, then you are removing the risk of what you think is risky, or you're removing the feeling or the thinking that it is a scam. because you understand it, right? I mean, I don't do, in today's world, I am very much leaning into, I want to understand how do these blockchains, how does those cryptocurrencies and things like that work. So I'm studying that these days. I've got other people that are doing that. I don't do it, right? But before I start doing it, I'm learning a little bit. And I want to speak to your learning journey. How did that look like? Because, you know, I almost don't want to leave the audience talking about learning as an umbrella. But what was the practical things that you did to equip yourself? And even up to now, what is it that you're doing? You know, I'm a serious advocate of reading books, attend webinars, attend sessions in practical. I mean, now in COVID, we can't do that. But don't be an information junkie. Go out there, get the information, do. I'm an advocate of doing, right?
Exactly.
So for you, what is that journey looks like in terms of learning?
Yes, so I was pretty fortunate. I found a mentor pretty early in my life. And that's how I actually came to buy my place at the age of 26 years old. It's because I found a mentor in my business. And he started teaching me a lot, most that I know about personal finance. That's actually my business partner now, Justin Harrison, who does the Global Money Academy webinars with us. So Justin took me under his wing. He started teaching us a lot, and yeah, he was hard. There was no telling us and not doing. You had to come next week with results, and he intentionally had us fail the whole time. He would see us do something wrong, and he would let us fail, and then afterwards he would laugh at me, and then he'd tell me like, okay, so what did you learn? Yeah. And that was a word for me. And I think that's where the lesson sank in. And like I told you earlier, I don't like bumping my head twice, and most of all, I hate losing money. So I think that's where it started. That's where the education started, and I think that gave me a huge advantage in life. Is because I learned so quickly because I found a mentor. Look, books are great, podcasts are great, webinars are great, but like you said, you have to physically get out there and do it. So that was my problem as well. As during that 10 years that you were speaking about, I was reading books, but I never really went out and applied the information. It's only later on where I actually went to a seminar. I found the ad on Facebook, and it was a seminar on Durbanville, quite close to me. And I attended the seminar the night, and I really liked what they were saying. They were doing the buy to rent and renting the place out, getting cash flow. And I actually set up a meeting with them. And through them, I started learning about their processes. They basically guide me into buying my first rental property. And I've got a few rental properties, which has been through that company, and them basically assisting me in the process, and thereby me also getting educated, but also learning my own lessons along the way, and sparking that the interest in property, and seeking out different avenues as well. So the Airbnb thing actually just happened by chance. We were going between Namibia back and forth the whole time, and my place was open 6 months of the year, and I decided, let's give it a go. There's a crowd in Cape Town that manages everything for you. You basically don't do any work at all. You basically just give them the keys. They handle the listings. They upload it to Airbnb, and they even do the cleaning afterwards again. So that's where it started. And then I struggled in Namibia to get a place because I've got dogs that travels with me as well. And so I decided, okay, well, I got this brainwave. Let's go to Swakop. I sign a lease with a guy for a year. I'll furnish it and negotiate a sub clause in the contract that allows me to rent the place out as well as so basically doing subletting. And so when I wasn't there, I was being that place up, paid the woman next door to a percentage of the deal to manage the property for me. So once again, I don't have to do the work. And then I come back here, my place is open, move in. When I'm done, the company comes sort out the cleaning, and they start listing it again to the Airbnb people. So that's how that story went and played out.
My man, you are so creative. I love your creativity. It ticks many of my boxes. I mean, your rental business. How many tenants do you now have across board on your rental businesses?
Well, I've got two, and I've got another one launching now.
Okay. Right.
the third property, rental property launching now.
Right. And then on your Airbnbs, if you are fully let out, well, how many tenants would that be?
Well, no, the Airbnb, I only had in Namibia and I had it in Cape Town. So now with COVID, no one is traveling anymore. So I'm the only person in the place.
Okay, good stuff. But I almost want to come back to talk about your rental business, right? You went to attend a school, and out of that you got some education, and then you went out to buy, and there you are. You've got a business that's cash flowing, right? So it's money coming through to you without doing any work, right? And I get the feeling that you've got a manager. If you've got a manager for Airbnb, I'm sure you've got for your rental business as well.
Yes, exactly. So they handle all of that stuff. You know, it's us, it's our business as entrepreneurs and investors to do the stuff that makes you money. You know, right. Managing the tenants on a day-to-day basis is not the thing that generates the money. So I'm more than happy to pay a company to manage my tenants for me instead of me doing it.
I think it's a stumbling block for a lot of people. A lot of people want to be hands-on. I am very much one of those people. I'm like you. If I can own nothing but control everything, oversee it, and get someone else to manage it for me, I'm in a happy space.
Exactly. Eh?
You know, I see a lot of people struggling with that, where they want to do everything themselves. What are the stumbling blocks that you are running away from by actually giving someone that job, like for instance to Airbnb, both in Namibia and here?
Yeah, so you know, the first thing is you obviously when you start out, you got to do it yourself, because you got to understand how it works. You know, right. It's all good and well having a company doing something, but if you don't understand how it works, it's very difficult overseeing them. So I would definitely start out doing it myself, but then eventually I hand the task over to someone else and rather focus on the things that actually starts making you money. I think that the thing that most people don't want to let go of is, I think a lot of the people, they want to get the most profit possible. So they rather decide to do it themselves. Whereas for me, it's more about freeing up my time, because I've got a lot of stuff going. Time is, I'll never forget this. Someone once told me that time is the one thing that you can never buy back. And I take that very seriously. So I hate spending time on things that I first don't like, and stuff that doesn't make a profit for me in business. You know, it's for me, it's an incredible waste of time.
Yeah.
And life.
And David, I see that you got a couple of things going on, and I mean, today I actually just wanted us to talk about your property journey alone, but you're a fully fledged entrepreneur. You run other businesses and things like that. The question that I want to ask you is that, compared to everything else that you've got, why property? Why not just focus on the other things that you're doing? But why have you brought in property in the mix of the things that you're doing?
Well, the first thing that I obviously like is, obviously in business, so I made money in business. I could afford to put down quite a bit of money down on the deposit for the houses, right? But the rest of it, the tenants are paying. So it's not my money, it's the bank's money. So for me, it's a no-brainer, you know. The money that I get in every single month, it pays for the bond, it pays for the levies, it pays for the rates and taxes. And then within 2-3 years, it's going to be a very nice passive income source to have. So that is the first one, the first reason. The other reason, obviously, property is tangible. It stays there. Even if there's a market correction, let's say the stock market goes down, your rental property still makes money. So it's good good for diversification. The properties offshore is excellent because it's a hedge against our currency, the rand. You know, it's very volatile. So that also gives you protection overseas again. And once again, it's tangible. It's there. You can see it. You can touch it. It's not something that's just going to vanish in thin air.
Preach, continue. I'm excited, man. I mean, your reasons are very solid. You know, your reasons are very solid. In your other business, what kind of business is it?
Yeah, so we've started out as a online marketing group. We do doing a lot of lead generation. That's what we started out doing. And so we've always been working from home, really. And now we've got a few projects going on. We've got a credit report platform where we're actually doing a lot of educating around credit scores, because we know a lot of, most people actually don't know how to increase their credit scores. And there's very little information out there in South Africa. Before this call, I actually was on a webinar for more than an hour just answering questions live from people around their credit scores. Because I think that the problem that most people make as well when they go into property investing is they apply for a bond or whatever, and they most of the time get turned down because they've got a bad credit score, or they get a terrible interest rate, and it's also directly related to their credit score. So that's one of the business that we've got going. Like I said, I've got a huge interest in personal finance. And then the second thing is...
Before you go on to the second thing, actually, Dawid, I think you have just hit an area, and I asked you this intentionally because I knew you were going to raise it up. And for us in the property space, we are of the advocate that use as much as you can of the bank's money where possible. 100%. And really the cornerstone of it is your credit score, your affordability, right? And for me, what you have just mentioned, this project that you're doing, I would like you actually to invite you again so that we can just focus around that to educate our community on how best they can get that done. And because if you've got a good credit score and you're finding the right opportunities to buy, you can literally, for those people that are wanting to retire early, the opportunity is there because you're learning how to manage your money very well. The banks is throwing out money to you. I mean, I have personally seen companies that have been given birth with guys that were earning R1 million a year. And some of those guys in their business now, they've got a credit line of about 2 to 3 million. But they started off managing very well their personal finances and toggled it into their business. And from there, they grew a small business. And now the banks are throwing money at them at even prime minus, you know. And in my view, if I've got a 2 million at a prime minus, even 1 or even plus 50 or 0.5, you know, I can go out there. It's as good as if I've got cash in my bank account right now, you know, if I'm going out there to buy. So this is very, very important to me. And I'm glad that you've brought it up. I would like us on our next episode coming through, not in the far future, let's pin down some time and dive into this, because I think this is an important part of property investors that are serious on bringing in value or extracting value from the banks. Yeah.
Yes. No, I'd be happy to join you on another call. There's a lot that has to be said about credit scores. So yes, we'll have to schedule a separate webinar just for that subject, because there's a lot of information to cover. Good. So yes, I'll be happy to join you there. Awesome. Adding to what you just said as well, like the difference between interest rates. Many people don't know this, but your credit scores are directly related to the interest rates that you'll be getting if you're getting a bond. So if there's a 2% interest rate between two people, let's say number one gets 7% interest rate by the bank, and the other one is a higher risk class, so they get 9%. The money that you save over interest over let's say a 20-year term bond, depending on the amount, can range anything from 400,000 to 600,000-700,000, and people don't even realize that. And that is on a 1 million rand bond. Wow,
and that's a great savings. I mean, if I was saving the same amount of money for my son, I mean, my son he's got a leapfrog in life with that money, with 400,000 into the future. He can easily buy a car. He can easily buy an apartment. He can start off a business. But this is money that I'm plowing back into the banking system because of my negligence of managing my own affairs.
Yes, my business partner Justin actually told me this quite early on in life. He said, "Listen, you will never be successful in business if you cannot manage your own personal finance. So first, manage your own personal finance, become an expert in your own personal finance, and then
Right.
go on to start a business and try and manage that business's finance. Because if you are of the habit of spending money left, right, and center, then you're going to be doing that, performing the same habits in the business.
You've just nailed it, man. Right. And what's the second, you were going to jump on to tell us the second projects that you're running there in that business?
Oh, yes. So that's Global Money Academy, and that's actually where you found us.
Yes.
So we do, it's free webinars that we do every second week. The same with my credit status. So the one week is the credit score webinars, and the second week is the personal finance webinars. And that started out as we call it a passion project of ours. So yes, we'd like to educate as many people possible. And so far, the feedback we've been getting is, it's overwhelming. It's great. It's been 3 months that we've been doing this now, the webinars, and already we've been running over 500 people subscribing to the channel. So yes, it's doing very well, and I'm very happy with that. It's a lot of pleasure that you get when you educate people, and you can see they actually take the information in and they actually apply it to their own lives, as opposed to people just hearing of it and then leaving it.
I share the same passion and pleasure with you there. I mean, the same thing we do at our varsity in terms of just property alone, and getting to see one guy who didn't know nothing going to buy their first 2-bed, 1-bath, and they're calling you or they're giving you a shout out on Facebook to say, I bought my first property. Thank you to M5 Property Varsity. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. But it is easily said, and not a lot of people take action, though.
Yes, and that is 100% correct. People want everything to be done for them. I think that's why so many people jump into this crowd one and all that crap. They want money, and they want money easily, and they want to take the shortest route. But you can go speak to any successful person out there. They will tell you that's not the route that they went. There might be a few people that won the lottery, but statistics show you that most of them went bankrupt again. Yeah. So I think the most important thing you can do is, get educated, choose a subject that you like, and get educated as much as you can. If it's property, then learn as much as you can about property, because that's the best thing you can do for yourself. If you just jump into a deal without any education, that's where you start making very costly mistakes.
100%. Dawid, you're a family man. You run a business. You have the privilege of having a host. That's what they're called, right? The AirBnb guys. You have the privilege of having a host here in Namibia, and you still have your properties, your rental properties that you manage, and your life is as busy as mine. How do you manage all of this? On top of that, having a wife, having kids, the dogs that you need a passport to go from back and forth in different countries. How do you manage all of this?
Okay, so firstly, in our business, we're lucky. We've got a team. Everyone's got a different role assigned to them, and we've been together for a very long time.
Right.
More than 10 years. So everyone trusts each other. Everyone play their part. So there's no overseeing on that one. And then the second one is I wake up 4 o'clock in the mornings to do the important stuff that I do, that I need to do. Every single night I wake up at 4, and that's usually the education part of as well. That's when I read books and listen to podcasts, listen to webinars. As soon as you probably know, but as soon as the kids wake up, that's a bit difficult.
You're very right. And you've always been waking up early.
Actually not. In my college years, up until probably when I was 25, I used to go to sleep at around 1 o'clock in the mornings, and then wake up at 7, 8 in the mornings. But then I just changed my habit. I just decided, I think I looked at myself, and I looked at where am I most productive during the day. And the place where I'm most productive was the morning. So I just decided, at evenings I'm not that productive because, you've obviously had a busy day, you had a lot of distractions, And the mornings is obviously the best way to go. So I just forced myself to wake up early. And after probably like 2 months or so, it was a new habit. And that new habit is still installed with me now. So now I wake up even earlier.
What time do you sleep though?
I go to bed at around 8:30, 9 when my kid goes. Sometimes we take him to bed at about 8 o'clock, and then I usually fall asleep with him.
Yeah. Okay, good. I think that's a good ritual or habit if one is to follow that. I am the opposite. I can push like an all night and still be able to wake up around about 6, 7-ish and be able to push nicely during the day. So we are the opposite of each other.
Yes, well, it depends on person to person. Like I know a lot of people that prefer working at night. It's just I don't prefer work at night. So yeah, it all depends on the person. I must tell you, when I started out with business, I wasn't like that though. I started out, I'd go to bed at like 1, and then I'd wake up again probably like 5, 6, and then I'd start working all the way through to 1 again. So yeah, that's probably just my obsessive nature, you know.
Okay, good stuff. What are some of the obvious benefits now? You know, when you started off the property thing back in the days when you were 26, I'm sure you had some aspirations or some goals. What are some of the benefits now that you're seeing that are manifesting now? And you're like, oh, okay, this was something that I had far-fetched in my thinking that I'll see it, but now I'm seeing it, I'm touching it. What are some of those benefits that you're seeing in today's life?
Yeah, so the rental property one is a proper business that I've set up. It's the rental properties are structured into a business. The business owns the property, so that is great. It's another business that I own, and like I said, I love business finance and businesses. Also, the nice thing that I can see now is obviously the tenants are paying the bond, and I'm still generating or getting equity in the properties, more equity, and obviously, the cash flow that's coming from it. So I'm glad I started out where I started out. It's quite a mission, all the paperwork to go through. So I'm glad I did it when I did it. And then as for the other stuff, yeah, I can obviously, whenever I see dividends coming in from the money, it's great. It's like I said, it's a very good diversification from what we've got, our rand and the stock market and all the other investments that us as entrepreneurs are involved in.
Yeah. What is the one thing that when you started off back in the days, right? What is the one thing that you probably underestimated? But if you're looking today's life, now that you've done a few deals, if you look back and you'll be saying, this is something key, but I actually overlooked it when you started off. What would be that one thing?
The numbers. Always prepare for the worst. I can tell you now, the numbers aren't always right. So I'm a numbers person, right?
Right.
And business has always been pretty simple. This is your ROI. This is the return of investment you're getting. So for me, it's always been pretty simple. Do the numbers and the rest is going to play out pretty well. But with property, I didn't expect laws to come through saying that body corporates can't charge you special levies anymore. Now all of a sudden the levies are doubling. Now you're being set back another year before you go cash flow positive. So yes, definitely the costs. And no one told me that when I started out, I bought 2 properties immediately. They both registered on the same time. And now obviously in each complex, there's 46 units plus going out on the market. So you're going to be sitting without tenants for 2-3 months. Luckily, I was in the position to be able to afford it. But look, a lot of the first-time buyers, it's pretty large purchases. And when you're sitting with 2 properties that you now have just acquired, and now you have to start paying the bonds as well, plus the levies and taxes, then it's pretty costly. So yes, definitely the numbers aren't always right, and prepare for the worst.
You know, the reason why I actually laughed so hard when you said the numbers, and you are the first person actually to respond that way.
Really?
Yeah. And yet it is it is the cornerstone of why we're doing this, right? Because if you're not knowing your numbers, then what is investing? You know, if
Yeah,
you don't know what you're going to get out of it, then it's not investing at all. And the sad thing about it is that I was in the same position. Up until I went to school, David, I had never done numbers. I didn't even know that you need to have numbers. When they started talking about return on investment, I was busy asking my wife, so what do they mean by that? I had to go and Google all of that, right? And even though I was working at the bank at that time, right, I knew factually, yes, but when we were buying properties before the education part, we just looked at one thing. We were looking at it as an investment of 5 to 10 years to come. I remember saying to my wife at a particular time, you know, when we retire, we're going to have so much money. But the real question, David, was that how do you survive between now and then for you to be having so much money? Someone needs to subsidize here. Can you afford to subsidize? And if the answer is no, then you're not going to reach your goal. So already from a mathematical perspective, there's a conflict of interest there. It's not just going to work out. You're not going to get to your goal. And that's something that was, like now there is no property. When I go to a property, I've got on my phone now a very short app that I've got. And when I go into a property, I've already done some numbers up front, you know, and when I go there, I'm validating what I'm seeing. And if I need to change something, I change it immediately. Then I go back home again. I start doing some more research to see what is the rental income in that area, because I want to hit that return on investment that I'm looking for now, right? I'm looking at it as if this is my only property that I've got. This is my only business that I've got, and my kids needs to have an income from this business, you know. I'm not looking at my other business that, no, it might subsidize here, because I'm stealing from Peter if I'm doing that to pay Paul. Because that my thinking there now is that that's not an investment. It should be standing on its own. But, you know, people have different ways of looking at it. So I'm glad that you mentioned numbers there. And what if you don't know numbers?
Well, you know, let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
If I give you a car now and you know that the brakes doesn't work,
right,
what are you going to do? You're going to have to get it fixed. Otherwise, there's a crash coming. Now, it's the same thing with numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you're going to have hardships coming, you know. So that's the best way. I mean, there's so many calculators these days online when it comes to property investing that can help you make those numbers. And I mean, if you don't know the numbers, get someone that does know the numbers and ask them to check it. Or ask them at least to validate that the numbers that you did are correct. Because a lot of the time you'll do numbers and someone else will come with a fresh pair of eyes and they would see something that you've missed, you know. Go to experts or someone that's been in the industry for a long time, know exactly how it works, and just ask them, listen, can I pay you for your time? Can I pay you to actually just look at this? So that small payment that you can offer them can save you thousands, if not millions, over time.
You are spot on. Well said. I might have never said it any better. David, we're going into the last section of our recording, and I just want to ask you around about 3 to 4 questions, and this is like top of mind. You don't have to think about it. If you think about it, you have lost, right? And the first question that I'm going to ask you is, what is your favorite business book?
Well, it sounds like a very much a cliche, but it is most probably Robert Kiyosaki's book, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad. But I would say there's 2. I'm gonna throw another one in there as well. And this is not really business, so I think it's I think it's fair. It's called If You Money from Dan Lok. It's a very cool book in terms of mindset. It tells you why when most people it basically changes your whole mindset around money and why having money is freedom. You know, having more money it doesn't make you a bad person. If you're a good person, it just amplifies the good in you. You know, money is seen as a lot of people. It's seen as a greed thing. Having a lot of money is only for people who are greedy. And this book basically breaks down all those negative beliefs. Yeah.
The Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've got my copy I always carry one in my office. This is my son's copy, actually. And I had 2 copies that I got. I never read the first one. And the second one, after I saw a few adverts online about Robert Kiyosaki, I jumped onto it. And in 6 hours, I was done reading the book. And
that's the nice thing about the book. It's so easy to understand. I think that's the biggest thing. Because I've read a lot of property books, and generally it gets very complicated. You start losing interest when it goes into different kinds of terminology. But this book actually speaks to the general person, especially people that have no education when it comes to personal finance. I think it's a very good basic for people to start with.
What was your awakening moment? The one thing that you learned from the Rich Dad Poor Dad? For me, it was about where I was in the tax bracket. I was working for the bank at that time. I was giving away 40% of my income to the state, SARS, and I'd never thought of it. You know what I mean? So the payslip came, right? The payslip came, but I read it, but I never thought that I can change that. So because when I read it, the payslip was what it is. I didn't think you can change it. But then when I was reading the book, for me, my awakening moment was you can actually move from that quadrant of being an employee to another quadrant. For me, I like being in the I quadrant, in the investor, so that I pay very little tax to no tax if I can, right? Using all the other methodologies that are there. And this is being done everywhere in the entire world. You can do it, and it's legal also. For me, that was the awakening moment, and I don't know what was your awakening moment.
Yeah, for me, it probably came when he started discussing assets and liabilities. I think all of us hear assets and liabilities, but we never truly understand what is an asset and what's a liability. I think that's where
we think our assets is our furniture.
Yes, and our primary residence is our biggest tax asset, where it's actually a liability. It's Charles' money every single month from you, you know. Also, I think the way that he explained it, like how legal structures are set up, buying property into a company, I think that was, for me, that was brilliant. And that's why I decided on the company that I eventually started working with, is they had the similar beliefs.
Right. Okay,
like
great.
You said earlier, control everything, own nothing.
Oh yeah, I like that too. My next question is that if we are to look at your younger self, what advice would you give?
Don't listen to people that haven't been successful at it when it comes to property investing or any kind of investing.
You mustn't listen to Uncle Bobby.
The guy down the block coming for a braai, not being able to afford a steak, but he's tuning you about property investing.
I mean, we laugh about it, David, but it's such a reality in our communities. And these are the things that scare people off. You know, you do your webinars and things like that, and you've got someone who comes through in there. They've been educated, they've been convinced. They go to Auntie Jane, and Auntie Jane, because they're a trusted source in the family, Auntie Jane says, no, those people are potentially a scam.
Yes, everything's a scam these days.
Yes, and that person is just changed. But Auntie Jane owns nothing. You know what I mean? And Auntie Jane has never bought a car. She like that really pains me to the core, that we ask advice from the wrong people, and we think that is true, and we go on that one.
I've got many heated arguments, I can tell you, every single month with people when it comes to those things. Who come saying, no, it's a great time. Like you have to buy that place. And I look at them and I make the numbers in my head, and I say, but listen here, out of the top of my head, I can see that will never work. That's a terrible investment. You're going to be paying money for that thing, and then after 10 years, you might go cash flow positive. I might start going cash flow positive. where it's the stupidest investment you can make. There's so many other things out there that you can put the same money in, and you can either make money immediately or 2 years or 3 years. But now you want to go put money into something that will take 10 years. And it's like, no, but it's property. It's a good investment. It's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. Thanks. If the numbers doesn't make sense, how can you go for it?
Right, right. Awesome. My last question to you, Dawid, is what does success look like to you?
Well, for me personally, it's the freedom to do what I do, what I want, and to be in business and to do something that I love doing, that I've got a passion about, to teach people, to spend time with my family when I want, to travel when I want, and to enjoy life. You know, it's life is too short for me to be sitting in a cubicle, and for me that's not success. And luckily that's not what I've been doing, and I've been doing what I love. So for me, I'm probably very successful then.
100%. Well done on that. The last question that I'm going to ask you is that when you take your dogs to Namibia, do they need a passport? I've never had a pet that goes over the country.
No,
so I don't know.
It's quite easy, actually. We've done it so many times. My wife's family lives in Namibia, so we go there quite often.
Okay.
So all you do is you go to the vet, and then you get them checked out, make sure they've got all their shots, rabies shots. You go to the state vet, let them stamp a document for you, and that's the passport, basically.
When they get to the other side, do they also get the excitement that this is a different place, or is it still the same for them?
No, they don't know what's going on. They just sit there in the car and wait till we get to the end destination. Stay away from the kid who's pulling on the hair.
Dawid, it's been awesome having you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dawid Bester. And like I told you, we only bring you successful friends. I like Dawid's journey. I like the way he thinks. Dawid, the way you do life is a place where I am like, I want to be like Dawid. It is so structured. You've got a good team that's working with you. You've got a high level trust in it. So that frees up a lot of your time. You've got a business there that is running up. You're giving it to other people to manage for you. That frees up your time. And your success, you're measuring it with around the fact that you can do what you're wanting to do. And I think a lot of us, we are in a position where we can't even do that if it's not a weekend, we can't even do that on a Monday to Friday. So well done to you, and success to your journey.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun being on the podcast.
Boom! You had it right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dawid signing out. My name is TJ. We'll be talking to you on the next podcast. If you have enjoyed what you have been watching, you need to hit the subscribe button. And over and out for me. God bless. Cheers. Bye.